Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to have a look at a beer from another brewery that I've never tried anything from before. So for this one, we are going to head north once again. We're going to go to Uppsala, to the north of Stockholm, and we're having a look at my first beer from Jackdaw Brewery. So this particular beer is called the Zwarte Draak Apelsin Choklad edition. It comes in at 9.7% ABV. And they're describing this one as a Belgian style strong ale, and obviously it's got oranges and chocolate added into the brew. So yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. I've known about this brewery for quite a little while, but it's just taken me a wee bit of time, of course, to get round to reviewing something from them. And I think I bought this one because I thought it was a Belgian stout at the time, but it says, you know, a Belgian style strong ale, which tends to be more of a sort of brown sugary type thing. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly what to expect from this one, but I have heard very good things about the original Zwarte Draak. So hopefully this one is as good as people have said the other one is, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one. So yeah, let's see how we get on then. Very curious about this beer, and always nice to introduce new breweries to you here on the channel as well. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Jackdaw Brewery. This is the very first time I'm trying one of their beers, as I've mentioned, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. Pardon me, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about the Jackdaw Brewery then, on to my brewery notes. So Jackdaw Brewery, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Uppsala, and the company was founded back in 2013. But the three men behind this company are Jan Axeus, Fredrik Bjarman and Gabriel Kjellberg. But together, these guys boast backgrounds as chefs, systems developers and teachers, and they started homebrewing together back in about 2011 because they were a bit sick of kind of queuing outside of Systembolaget and, you know, paying kind of big prices for beers that they thought they could have a go at making themselves and do quite well. And it has worked out quite well for them from what I gather. But they started off brewing batches of 30 to 40 litres. They received positive feedback on their beers, and after this they drew up a business plan and invested in their own premises. And you can find this just out to the northwest of Uppsala by Klista. But these guys have focused mainly on Belgian style beers over the years, and they've collaborated with Brouwerij Alvin from down in Belgium, who are very well regarded, of course, too. There's been a good number of collaborations between them. But in more recent years, they have been producing a lot more sour beer. And in 2017, they had a Kickstarter campaign to acquire two 3,800 litre oak fodders, which came from France. And the aim of this was to produce around 15 to 20,000 litres of sour beer per year. But apparently, over the course of 2019, they brewed 20,000 litres of beer in total, with about 12,000 litres of that being sour beer, which was blended up to around 20,000 litres itself in total. So yeah, that I guess that means that they have produced somewhere in the region of, you know, 28. They've released about 28,000 litres of beer over the course of 2019. I'm not sure what they've produced in more recent years. Those were the latest figures that I could find. But as of July 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 65 different kinds of beer in total, according to Untappd. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Jackdaw Brewery for the moment. There wasn't too much information available on these guys, and likewise when I was researching the brewery I wasn't able to find out which owner came from which background. But yeah, they've got an interesting pedigree in there, I guess you could say. But yeah, cool to come across another brewery specialising in Belgian style beers. There's quite a few. There's a couple these days that I can think of. There's De Vos, who are in Gothenburg, of course. There is Vreta Kloster, and then there's these guys, and I think these guys actually appeared on the scene a good little bit before Vreta Kloster actually. But cool to see that Belgian beers are starting to get a little bit more attention in the Swedish beer scene as well. There's been a lot more focus on lagers and things in recent times too, whereas before it was all about the IPAs and things like that. But yeah, been a long time coming that I do a review for this brewery, so that's it's nice to finally get around to it. But that's all I can really tell you, as I say, about Jackdaw Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's get on and have a taste of this beer then. I'm very curious about this. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is pretty nice. Zwarte Draak. I do wonder if this is meant to be a little tribute to the likes of Golden Draak. You know, that's quite a famous beer from Brouwerij van Steenberg, if I'm remembering rightly, down in Belgium. So I do wonder if this is meant to be a little bit of a kind of tribute to that beer, but obviously they've called it the Black Dragon instead of you know, Golden Draak. But yeah, this of course is using Dutch or Flemish language. I'm not sure if there's any real difference between the two, but yeah, you can see this little jackdaw down here. I think they call that a kaya or Kalja, I forget. It's got a certain name in Swedish, but yeah, they've gone with the English name for this, and I guess that's probably just to be a little bit more sort of international. But yeah, it says on the side here that this one contains orange zest and cocoa nibs. So yeah, hopefully, as I say, this one will turn out to be a nice beer. This one was released in one of the, it was released as part of one of the Lokale Småskaligs this year in 2021, but I honestly can't remember exactly what one it was. It might have been like April or something like that, but I've had this one sitting for a while. But when it's a Belgian dark strong ale, you can kind of afford to do that a little bit. It's not really going to fight the beer too much. Some might even argue it makes it better. But yeah, been a long time coming. But as I say, when I bought this beer, I thought it was going to be like a chocolate orange Belgian stout, but I'm wondering if it's going to be, you know, when it says a Belgian style strong ale, I think that really tends to mean more of a kind of brown sugary type thing. But yeah, 330ml bottle, and I think I paid about 60 Swedish kroner for this. So this is about €6, about £5.50 sterling, something like that, and maybe a little bit less. Then somewhere in the region of probably $7 American, just to give those of you watching across the world a little bit of a price reference. So let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. I'm going to be careful with this because if it's a Belgian style beer, they sometimes can misbehave, and I've had that before. I had a Vienna lager explode on me the other day, as you might have seen. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Let's go for it. So, this one, as we say, the Zwarte Draak, a 9.7% Belgian dark strong ale, I guess we could say, with cocoa nibs and orange zest added into the brew, or as they're calling it, yeah, the Zwarte Draak Apelsin Choklad. So yeah, nicely presented. But yeah, let's just sit this down, and there we are. So yeah, as you can see, and as you would expect of this one then, it's poured a lovely, very dark ebony rosewood colour. It actually does look a little bit more like a stout rather than, you know, one of these very dark strong ales, of course. But yeah, you can see if you shine the light through it, it does have a little bit of a very dark, you know, ebony rosewoody kind of colour to it, but it's not quite, you know, black as night in the same way that a stout would be. Very little head on this one, but we'll come back to that in a minute. But yeah, remember when it comes to the colour of your beers, that's determined by 1, the type of malts that they use, 2, the length of your wort boil. The type of malts they use determine the magnitude of the colour. The length of the wort boil, you know, results in higher sugar caramelisation, and thus you get a slightly darker colour out of it. And any you know, any adjuncts and barrel aging, it will also affect the colour of the beer as well. But I think the chocolate could affect the colour of this one a little bit, but the orange zest, I don't think so, to be honest with you. But yeah, all of those will be playing a role in determining the colour of this beer. You also have to remember that with Belgian beers, quite often what they'll do with them is that to get the higher alcohol content, they'll put a bit of brew sugar in them. That's why Belgian beers tend to have a slightly lighter mouthfeel, sometimes quite an active carbonation as well, because a lot of it is dependent on you know, bottle fermentation. You know, that's why Belgian beers feel a little bit lighter and more kind of bubbly than other beers of the you know, other beers of the you know, of similar ABV, I guess we could say. But yeah, the head on this beer that was virtually non-existent when we poured it. There was just a few little islands there, but it's a kind of, you're getting a kind of fawny coloured foamy ring just around the edge of the glass on this one. But yeah, 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there. But overall, it looks pretty nice, and to be honest, kind of what you would expect when it says it's a Belgian style strong ale, but maybe a little bit blacker actually. And like I say, I thought this originally was going to be like a Belgian stout, I guess we could say. But yeah, let's have a closer look at the aroma then and see how we get on. Nothing else we really need to say about the appearance, and nothing madly surprising about it. So yeah, aroma time. Right, now that's interesting. It almost smells slightly sour. It almost smells as if it's got a little bit of a sour category to it. Sour character, I should say. But yeah, that is interesting. It almost smells as if it's got like a little bit of, you know, that tanniny, sour kind of thing to it. Not sure what to make of that. But yeah, just checking. Yeah, my nose is completely clear. But yeah, that's interesting. I mean, on first impression, I do get a wee bit of a kind of slightly sour character out of it. But at the same time, you can smell those big brown sugary elements in there. I mean, I'm getting quite a little bit of a... I'm getting quite a bit of, you know, treacle and, you know, kind of molasses kind of things like this. You're getting that highly caramelised brown sugar. You do get a wee bit of a kind of sweeter caramel and a bit of a biscuity note in there as well. But as I say, underneath I do get a few kind of oaky, woody sort of things out of this. So yeah, there are some kind of oaky, woody elements to the beer. It's got a wee bit of a, as we say, it's got a little bit of a kind of, how would you say? It's got a wee bit of a kind of, you can smell that sort of dusty, chocolatey character from the cocoa nibs in this one as well. You can smell that, giving the beer a little bit of a kind of slightly drier backbone to it, and that mixes in with the wood. But like I say, you do get a little bit of a kind of sharper, kind of tanniny element of this one. So that's really unusual. This is not what I would have expected at all. I'm really a bit confused by this aroma, I have to say. Not sure what to make of this one. But yeah, there's certainly, you can smell a wee bit of the orangey zest in there. I do wonder if that's where the kind of slightly sour character is coming from. It could just be a mix of zest, but it really, as I say, you know, I do get just a little hint of that out of it. But yeah, when you take the aroma in a bit more deeply, you will get the bright orange zest out of it. You can smell the sweet kind of chocolate in there. As I say, it seems like there's a bit of a woody backbone to this one. Sort of oakiness. You do get a little touch of a kind of vanilla oaky kind of character out of this one, which is quite interesting. But yeah, big brown sugary elements in there, a bit of a treacly molasses kind of thing, some sweet caramel and a bit of a toasty biscuit. But I think it's I do think that it's I do think there's a little bit of a kind of how do you say, I do think there's a little bit of a kind of dusty, chocolatey kind of thing in there as well from the cocoa nib. So that's quite interesting. This one's confusing me quite a little bit because, as I say, you just get a wee bit of a kind of tanniny, sort of sour type note out of this beer as well, which I wasn't expecting. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, as I say, the orangey zest kind of sits on top of all of that, which I very, very much like. But on the hoppy side of things, there's not too much to report there. And remember, these kind of beers tend to be a little bit more yeasty focused and things. And that's one of the things, I don't get too much in the way of like bready, yeasty character out of this one. So I'm curious to see how it translates in the taste right enough. But on the hoppy side of things, you get a little bit of a smooth earthiness, you get a wee bit of floral aromaticity, and there's also a bit of a kind of lighter grassiness to this one. So yeah, yeah, there's a little bit of a lighter kind of grassy character to this one, which I do enjoy. And then you've also got some nice kind of sharper red fruity notes coming out of the beer. So yeah, you can smell a little bit of that in this one. This is a really unusual aroma. Definitely take a wee bit of time to kind of ponder this one over. You know, take a bit of time to ponder this one over before you taste it, because this is very, very quirky, as I said. But yeah, interesting to say the least. Sorry about that, guys. Camera just did something a bit weird there, so I don't know. GoPros, don't like them, I have to say. But yeah, it's about time for us to get stuck into this beer then. So yeah, this one is the Zwarte Draak, coming in at 9.7% ABV, Apelsin Choklad edition, so a Belgian dark strong ale, I guess we could say, with cocoa nibs and orange added into the brew from Jackdaw Brewery in Uppsala, to the north of Stockholm here in Sweden. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål, cheers, prost. Oh yeah. Now on the first taste I can see exactly why I was getting that sort of sour character out of this one in the aroma. That's a really unusual beer. That's very, very unusual. It's almost like a kind of sour. What can we say? It's almost like a kind of sour. It's not quite a stout. It's like a cross between like a really quite sour, quadruple with a bit of stout. It's the backbone of the beer is a little bit kind of quadruple like and stout like at the same time, but then it's sour. It's really unusual. Yeah. Not 100% sure what to make of this one. This is one of the quirkiest beers I've come across so far, right enough. As I say, when I bought this, I thought it was going to be a Belgian stout. I thought it was going to be a Belgian stout beer, this one, but apparently not. So, yeah, it really is. It's like a, as I say, it feels like it's got a bit of a stout character to it, but feels like it's got a bit of a stout character, a little bit of a kind of quadruple type thing, but also a wee bit of a, a kind of, just a big sour character to it. So yeah, I'm really not sure exactly how we can describe this one, but we'll go through it and describe the flavours methodically as we always do. But yeah, a really, really quirky beer, this one. This will take a wee bit of time to get used to, that's for sure. So yeah, where to start with this? So yeah, let's just go through it in the same way that we always do. So backbone, if you go right across the middle of your tongue, you can feel that there's a toasty, sort of well-fired bread crusty note. That blankets the middle of your tongue there. But on top of that, you start to get some smoother kind of woody elements out of the beer. And we're talking both on the middle third of your palate and the back third of your palate. And I would say in the back third of your palate, the sort of toasty, well-fired things gain a little bit of intensity. But sitting on top of that, as I said, there is definitely, sitting on top of that, you get a nice little bit of a kind of vanilla type character. You do get a tiny, tiny little bit of vanilla on that front, just sitting in the wood on that front half of that, on the front half of that middle third of your palate. So that's really interesting. In fairness, you do get a wee bit of a kind of brown bready sort of thing sitting on top of the woody characters in this one. So yeah. But yeah, the brown sugary notes, I do get a little bit of brown sugar in this one, but it takes a wee bit of time for it to come out. Like on top of that very slight sort of bready note that this beer has, you can feel there's a wee bit of a kind of almost toasty, well-fired brown sugar. That's right in the middle of your palate, but sitting underneath that, of course, on top of the bread, that's when you get the cocoa nibs and the chocolate. You can really feel the cocoa nibs and chocolate sitting in this one. So yeah, as I say, the layer, you've got the wood, you've got the toasty, well-fired bread crust, you've got the wood, you've got a little bit of a kind of smoother bread, then you've got a kind of chocolatey, powdery sort of thing, then on top of that, you've got a bit of a toasty, well-fired brown sugar to this one. So yeah, I do like how this beer goes together in that sense. It's quite interesting. But yeah, this is very, very quirky. I've never come across a Belgian style beer quite like this one, I have to say. So yeah, I didn't expect this to have the sour character that it does. I thought, yeah, there'll be a bit of zestiness to it, but I didn't expect it to be a sour beer. yeah, it's interesting because the sour character, it comes out like right at the end. You've got that just a little bit of tartness on the end of the beer of this one, or the end of the flavour with this one, I should say. So yeah, this is it's a really strange beer to try and wrap your head around this one. I'd be curious to try the original Zwarte Draak and just see what it's like actually, and see if it has this kind of similar sour character. Because I've known about the Zwarte Draak for quite a while, and I just, as I say, just never got around to trying it. So what I might do is order in my next lot of Systembolaget locals, which will be that'll be the August edition now. I'll maybe see about ordering a bottle of the original Zwarte Draak as well and just seeing what it's like. But yeah, this is it's just really interesting and unusual how this beer goes about its business. Absolutely. But yeah. Anyway, I think there's not too much else to say about the middle third of your palate there. As I say, it's very layered. Wood, a little bit of vanilla kind of character in there. You get that kind of thing there, and you get a bit of the well-fired kind of grainy bread crust underneath. On top of that, there's a wee bit of a bready character. Cocoa nibs sitting on top of that. You get that dusty chocolatey thing. Then brown sugary notes, like a well-fired brown sugary character sitting on top of it. And yeah, I think that kind of sums it up fairly nicely, to be honest with you. On to the back third of your palate then. So border region between back third and middle third of your palate, you can feel a little bit of a sort of little bit of a bready build up there, and a bit more of a well-fired kind of grainy concentration, if you like. But as you move into that back third of the palate, you've got a nice kind of toasty, you can feel the sort of toastiness of that well-fired bread crusty kind of quality just intensifying. A bit of the smooth wood is there, and you can feel that the bready character is a little bit thicker as well. And then on top of that, you get a little bit more of those kind of airy, yeasty elements out of it. So yeah, that's interesting for sure. When you start at the back of the palate of the beer, you can feel the flavours a little bit taller, but it condenses down quite sharply, if you like, and then it goes into the middle third of your palate being quite condensed together. So I do like how that goes together in this one. It's interesting to say the least. This is definitely one of the quirkiest beers I've come across in the last little while. On the hoppy side of things then, the back corners of the palate, you can feel a little bit of earthiness there, which builds a good bridge with the sort of well-fired bread crusty and dry elements of the beer. As you move further forward, it's got a little bit more of a kind of, it does have a little bit more of a, say, it has got a little bit more of a kind of a herbally quality to it. Then as you reach the front corners of the palate, it's definitely a little bit more kind of floral and aromatic. Then round the front curve of the tongue, there's a distinctly lighter and kind of grassy character to it. And it has got a wee bit of zestiness there too, but on that front third of your palate, of course, this is when you're starting to get more and more of the kind of sour part of the beer coming out. This one, you can see my glass is sweating just because of the sheer heat that we're getting here in Sweden. This was only in the fridge at like 7-8 degrees, so yeah, maybe I should drink it a little bit warmer than that, but I'm sure the fridge is at 8 degrees, which is normally fine. But yeah, this is interesting for sure. So front third of your palate then. So border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again there's a wee bit of a bready build up there, a bit of a kind of grainy well-fired thing. Then underneath that front third of your palate, you get some of the woody characters. You can feel a little bit of the cocoa nib kind of sitting in there as well, and then you've got the fruity notes sitting on top of that. So you can feel the big, powerful, orangey zest character there. And the thing is, whenever you add fruit into beer as an adjunct, remember it always suppresses a little bit of the kind of hoppy bitterness, particularly around the kind of front edges of the tongue, and you can feel that happening here with the orangey zest. And then for me, on top of that, you've got a little bit, you can feel there's a few sort of red fruity notes in this one, like a really sort of sharp, raisiny kind of note or something like this. At the back of that front third of your palate, there's almost a very slightly kind of cakey fruit loaf type flavour to it. And you get a wee bit of dryness from the chocolate in there as well. So sitting on top of that, you maybe get a wee hint of a kind of plummy, datey sort of thing, and a wee bit of raisin on top. But then as you move further forward, you'll start to get a few lighter figgy notes. But on top of this, you've got that more wet, slick and tart orangey character. So it's really interesting how this goes together. in this beer. This, as I say, is definitely one of the quirkiest ones I've come across. I'd be really curious to try the original Zwarte Draak and just see what it has. Is it, you know, a classic beer without the sourness, or does it have a little bit of a sour character as well? Because I feel, in a way, I don't really understand what they're wanting to do exactly with this beer. It does, in a way, feel a little bit confused, but it is interesting at the same time. So I'm not 100% sure exactly what I should make of this one, I would say. But yeah, this definitely is quite a quirky one. And it says on the back here that you can drink this by 2039. So maybe it has got a bit of, you know, lactobacillus or something like that in it. I probably will be using one of these kind of sour yeasts, I would think. And if it is, then that's obviously going to mature. It's obviously going to mature and the flavours will change as it gets older and older. So I could be drinking it a bit too fresh, I'm not too sure. But yeah, it's certainly got a fair wee bit of tartness to it. And as I say, stylistically, it's kind of somewhere between like a stout, a Belgian stout and a Belgian quadruple, dark strong ale, whatever. But then it's sour on top of that. So it's a really unusual, quirky beer, this one. And I know that Alvin, who they collaborate with a lot, have a couple of beers like this. But yeah, this is a wee bit kind of quirky and unusual for me, I would say, but interesting nonetheless. But yeah, let's round off the review with the mouthfeel then. So, mouthfeel wise, I would say that this beer is, I'd say that it's quite, you know, it's kind of right in the middle of the spectrum. It's sort of bottom end of mid-bodied, middle of the spectrum with mid-bodied. It's kind of somewhere around that. But yeah, a nice little bit of slickness to it anyway. Carbonation is almost non-existent, I would say. So yeah, really quite slick beer. In terms of bitterness and things like that, this one I think does have a wee bit of bitterness to it, but not really from the hops. I'd say it's maybe more from the, it's potentially a little bit more from, you know, the, how would we say, a little bit more from the kind of malty side of things. I'd say the cocoa nibs and the malty part of the beer are giving it a little bit of bitterness, but the hops are contributing there as well. Maybe it's got about 25 or 30 IBUs, but then the malt base, as I say, very, very layered, quite a bit of dryness to it, a bit of smoothness and a wee touch of sweetness and toastiness, but really gets drier the further you go into the aftertaste. And the fruity side of things, it's got a wee bit of a juicy fruity character, but then the sort of sourness and zestiness from the oranges and the tart side of the beer really kind of take over this one a little bit. So on that note, it is a very quirky and rather interesting beer, I would say. So yeah, I think that's a good place to round off this review. I'm not sure exactly what to make of this one. It's an interesting beer and definitely one of the quirkiest ones I've reviewed over the next little while. And I do have another beer coming in from these guys for July, so you'll see me review that at some point soon. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to get this one done, was to see it, because this one's been sitting for a while. But we'll see what the other one has in store for us. I can't remember exactly what it was, come to think of it, but yeah, we'll see about reviewing that a little bit later on. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. So this one was the Zwarte Draak, the Apelsin Choklad edition, coming in at 9.7% ABV. I was expecting a Belgian stout with a bit of orange and chocolate in it, but it's turned out to be more of a kind of mix of a quadruple, a stout, and then with a lot of sour character on top of it, which I really didn't expect. So quirky beer, this one, worth trying, I think, if you like Brouwerij Alvin. It does really remind me of the beers that I've had from them. But yeah, just be aware, if you buy this, it will be a little bit quirky and unusual, but I think we need to try the original Zwarte Draak as well, so we'll see about ordering one of those at some point soon. But yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Jackdaw Brewery, and as I said, we will return to these guys at some point within the next couple of months and do something else. But yeah, thank you for watching. Check out my social media, check out Jackdaw's social media, and I'll see you guys again very soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers, and see you in the next review.